Hello everybody, it's Jen. Today I'm using a Christmas stamp to make a Valentine's card. So I'm using the Stampendous Truck Tidings, which came out for purchase at Michael's this Christmas, and the Love Notes paper pad by Crate Paper, as I'm trying to use up a bunch of my older paper pads. So today I'm going to be coloring using my Zig it's always such a tongue twister, Clean Color Real Brush pens or markers. And I am only using two colors today. The color that I'm using on screen now is number 42. It's the turquoise green. And the only other color I'm using is the 95 dark gray, which I'll use for some shading and for the tires. So I actually went ahead and wet the paper before I started using the marker on the image. And then I just traced around the image to where I wanted the darkest spots to be. Now I'm using a water brush, which I love because the water is already in the barrel, so it's easier to control the water that's coming out. And I'm just moving the watercolor from the marker around the image so that there'll be darker spots and then there'll be lighter spots in the middle for some depth and dimension. So this image was really easy to color. I decided not to use too many colors, and here's Piper. I'm just going to move her out of the way. And I really wanted to keep it simple to show you that you can actually get a lot of punch for just using one marker. So here you can see I'm just wetting the tires here, and now I'm going to lay down the dark gray color, and this just helps it move along as you blend. I find especially with the darker colors it's easier if you have some water down just to help it move before you lay the marker down. So this image really only took me probably less than 10 minutes to color, so that's nice. And just I find the darker colors are a little bit harder to move around, but you just have to kind of be patient and just play with it. You want to make sure that your brush is not too oversaturated. So to the right side of me there, I do have a paper towel that I'm dabbing off. So for some shading, I wanted to put some of the dark gray on the handle, and then I'm going to go along some of the parts of the truck at the bottom where I just want to put in a little bit of shadow. So that's what I'm doing now. And then I'm going to follow the lines on the image. So I'm going to put a little bit there, and then I'm going to move to the top of the bed of the truck and just put in a little bit of shading, and I think that makes a huge difference to the image, but definitely not necessary. So you could have left it where it was with just the turquoise green marker. So once I get this done, I'm going to use the die that came in the set, and I'm going to run it through my Big Shot machine once I get it lined up here. And the image is perfectly cut out. It cuts out the window, which I honestly wish it didn't, but that's okay. Now I'm just going to put the card base together. So I've used the Lawn Fawn stitch rectangle square to cut out the base of my card, as well as that XOXO paper. I ran that through the rectangle so that it had the stitching on either side. Then I just used a scallop die. I believe that's by Sizzix, and I'm going to adhere all of these pieces down. Now, when adhering the truck, I made sure not to leave not put any of the adhesive near the top of the bed so that I could tuck the elements behind that easily. So I just used my stamp block there. I sped that up really quickly to adhere it, and then I'm using the You've Got Mail stamp set by Lawn Fawn, that little envelope set here, to do some stamping on some extra pieces of scrap paper that I had, and I used a Martha Stewart heart punch to cut out a number of hearts with red and pink cardstock, and then on some of the scraps that I had left from that paper collection. So you can use any stamp punch you have, and you don't need to put the envelopes. If you don't have an envelope stamp, you could just put hearts. I think that would be really cute, but I thought seeing I had that, I would go ahead and use the envelopes. So this portion took a long time. I've sped this up quite a bit. It was a bit tedious. I didn't have a plan when I set out to do this card. I just knew that I wanted to fill the truck bed with hearts. So I was just kind of going by the seat of my pants here, hoping that it was going to work out. So I'm just layering the envelopes and then layering the hearts around that. And it's really important to use liquid glue here so you have a bit of time in order to tuck in your little hearts and envelopes where you want them to go. And yeah, so I'm just tucking it behind the truck there and just kind of building up the truck full of hearts and envelopes as I go. So I put one more envelope up at the top there, and I'm going to continue to put some more hearts around that just so it doesn't look funny like there's one random envelope up at the top. I am almost done this portion, I promise. So I just wanted to keep it in so you could see the whole process of how this card came to be, because this is really the most tedious part of the card. So I'm almost done. I'm going to use some of the hearts and I'm going to make it look like they're actually falling out of the truck. You can see me kind of testing if I thought I was going to like that or not. I thought it looked cute, so just like it's so overloaded with love and Valentine's wishes that it was actually falling out of the truck. And so I had that little heart just coming off the side of the paper, so I just wanted to trim that up. And then I am going to stick on, I think, one more, and then I'm going to move on to the inside of the card, and I'm going to show you how you can take a sentiment that says Christmas and change it to what you need it to be. So I'm going to use my stamping tool, and I am going to mask off the bottom half of this. So it says sending you loads of Christmas wishes. So I am inking up this sending you loads of with a VersaFine black ink, stamping that, and then I'm going to wipe that stamp clean. I'm going to use Valentines. This is from the Lawn Fawn Silly Valentine collection. It's one of their oldest collections, stamp sets, but one of my favorites. So you see the black foam is back in because this is now a clear stamp and the other one was red rubber. And I'm using a Stampin' Up! Turquoise ink. I think it was Coastal Cabana. I'm going to stamp that twice just to make sure that it's a crisp image. And I like how that looks. I need to remove the foam piece again to bring the rubber stamp. Now I'm just going to mask off everything but the bottom phrase, which says wishes. Now this was a little tricky because of course I can't see it, but I do know that the bottom of the washi tape is the bottom of Christmas, which I don't want. So I know that I can kind of line up the washi tape to the bottom of the Valentines and it should work. So I didn't pre-try this. You're seeing my first attempt and it worked. So that was great. Then I'm going to use another scalloped circle so that it brings an element of the outside to the inside. And I'm going to put that aside while I adhere my card. So I'm just using my ATG tape runner because the card did warp a bit from all of the liquid glue from the hearts and the envelopes. So once I get that down, I'm going to move back to the inside of the card. There was just a slight, the paper was actually just a little bit shorter than the card, so I just trimmed that up. And now I'm going to move on to the inside. So I just took some of the red cardstock that I used for the hearts as a background for the sentiment for the inside of the card. Going to stick that sort of at the top so I have room to write my message. And then I decided to put one of the pink hearts on the inside of the card by the sentiment to bring the hearts to the inside. Then I'm going to use a ton of my Spectrum Noir glitter brush marker and make this super shiny. Now looking back on this card after it's complete, I think it would look really sweet if you just left the back of the card white instead of using the pattern paper. I feel like the hearts and the envelopes do get a little lost on the pattern of the paper. So that would be a recommendation if you wanted to try to recreate this card. And then after I was done, I thought I would grab some of these Sticko heart stickers, which so many of us bought a couple years back. I still have a ton of them, and I thought they would bring great dimension to the truck. So I placed a few of those in the bed as well. And now the card is complete. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I know it was a little bit long, but thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!